Hey, welcome back to the Build Beyond podcast. My name is Chris Netley. I'm your host. This podcast exists to challenge and guide you so that you can reach your full potential. I've said that before. I actually say it a lot. It is the reason why Build Beyond exists as a company, not just as a podcast, but as a healthcare company, Build Beyond Health. If you're wondering where that came from, I've shared before that I'm a pretty big fan of Simon Sinek. I get a lot of value out of what he produces, and he has a book, Start with Why, and he actually has a course on that book that you can take, an online course. So I read the book, I did the course, and both in the book and the course, there's a project at the end. And if you do the project, it is hard. Not hard as in like it's hard to do, but you have to get a partner, and the partner has to kind of look at different things, and the partner's going to ask you a bunch of probing questions, and you kind of dig deep into your reason why. And the thing about this project, and the thing about finding your why, you're a lot of times people confuse their goals with the reason why they do things. So you might say, "Oh, I'm a healthcare provider, so my goal is to help people with their health." What's a goal? It's not really why I do things. And you might say, "Oh, you're a podcast host, so your goal is to produce a podcast." Yes, that's a goal, but it's not really why I'm here and why I'm doing this. So you can look at your goal or your goals, and those just kind of facilitate your why or reflect your why, or they're as you're living and breathing your why, the goals are the things that you do to kind of in that process. So when we went through the project, things that I value, I value having someone challenge me, and I value having a guide. And I'm always trying to reach my full potential, almost compulsively. And I think a lot of people are like that, though, or they want to be. So people want to be challenged because being challenged and then overcoming challenges is so rewarding. And on the other side of challenges, that's where all the good stuff is anyway. And people want a guide. A lot of times they need a guide. The bigger the challenge, the more you might need a guide, and that there's no shame in that. Pro athletes have coaches, especially individual athletes. You would think like a high level golfer or a high level tennis pro, individual sport. Why would they need a coach? Their coaches cannot play or compete in the sport as well as them? Why do they need them? Because everyone needs a guide. It's just you will go farther having that. So we want to challenge people. I want to guide people, and everyone wants to reach their full potential. Regardless of what your goal is or why you're seeking healthcare or seeking coaching, you're trying to reach a full potential that you haven't gotten to, or that you have gotten to before, but it's hard to get back there. Whether that's with athletic performance, or with health, or with just having fun, reaching your full potential, maximizing your enjoyment. And a lot of times, if you have health issues or pain issues, you can't do that. So that's why this exists. And today, what I want to do is I want to talk about the patient care process. So Build Beyond is a podcast, but Build Beyond Health is an actual healthcare company. I see patients. And someday I would love to have other people work with me in my company so we could expand this. I think it'd be awesome. And I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding what I do. So this is your first time listening to a podcast, my podcast. You might not know I'm a chiropractor. That's my license. And so a lot of times when people think like, oh, I'm going to go see a chiropractor, I'm going to go get my back cracked. Now, I do adjust people from time to time. It is not a primary thing that I do with patients. And when I say that to people, they get really confused. Like, well, what else would you do? You went to school to crack backs. You don't crack backs, or you don't crack backs on everybody's back. What's that about? And I'll say that yes, the profession is known for manipulating the spine and other joints. We're known for hands-on therapy. Chiro means hands, and it was founded on those principles. It's still largely, a lot of chiropractors are guided by a philosophy, an old, in my opinion, outdated philosophy. A lot of people don't agree with that. That's okay. We don't have to agree on everything, but where philosophically and stereotypically you're going to go to a chiropractor, and the meat and potatoes, the primary treatment is the hands-on treatment, and everything else is just like secondary to that. Well, I have flipped that. I put other things above it. Actually, I put chiropractic adjustments on a level with, I don't know. It's down there. It's something that I rarely use. And mostly I'm doing it to entertain people because they feel like they need it or they want it. And I'm like, fine, as long as we're doing everything else that we need to do. So you might be asking, well, then what does that even look like? Well, I spend an hour with patients, and so what do you do for an hour? Well, I want to go through that today and give you an idea. So when someone comes in to see me, especially for an initial visit, we really want to look at three things, and we're talking about big picture here. I want to, if you have a problem, and that's why you're coming to me, I want to try and figure out what is causing that problem. And people are like, oh, so you want to get to the root cause? And I'm like, yeah, very rarely there is a singular root cause. This isn't like an episode of ER or Grey's Anatomy or House or something like that, where after 45 minutes, we're like, aha, it was this one thing, and we clear that up and everything's good. It's usually not how healthcare works. So I want to find out what are as many contributing factors that are resulting in your issue. Like, what is it, and what do we think is maybe the most important priority? And you have to play a role in this. So what could be contributing to your pain and what's not? I think that's a big important thing, because a lot of times people are freaked out. You read something on the internet, or you had a conversation with someone, and now you're scared. And most people understand the placebo effect. You've heard of that. So if you take, like, in an experiment, you think someone thinks that they're taking a medication, but they're not. It's just a sugar pill or something like that. But then their belief in the medication actually gives them, they get to embody the benefits of the medication without taking it, because the mind is very powerful. That's the placebo effect. Well, there is a nocebo effect, so it's in the opposite direction. So something that should not cause pain or injury or stress actually does, because you believe that it should. I think maybe an extreme version of this would be a panic attack, although that is oversimplifying panic attacks, I know. But you could think about it. If if you're in a plane with a bunch of people and it suddenly drops a couple thousand feet, everyone's having a panic attack. Or experiencing panic, and that is warranted. You know what I mean? Like, there is a very real reason why you are going to feel that way, and you're going to have a heightened sense for the rest of the day where you're just kind of on edge. That's a normal response to thinking that you're about to be in a plane crash. What's abnormal is when you have that response to something that is not life-threatening. So, and I think that's where you get into like generalized anxiety disorder and things like that. Not something I diagnose or treat, but what I'm trying to say is that people come in sometimes and they are freaked out and scared at a level where I'm looking at what's going on, and their problem is down here and their fear level is up here. And I'm like, okay, this level of pain and this level of fear does not match what's going on in the body. What's going on now? Sometimes it's neurologic. There are conditions where you have like this sense, like hypersensitive nervous system that's producing that, and that's an actual diagnosable condition, which happens probably more than what people think. But sometimes it's just fear. So if in this initial thing we're going to figure out, we want to consider all the possibilities and get rid of as many as possible, get as many things off the list, and see what's left on the table. Right, to see what could be contributing to this pain. So that's number one. We want to figure that out. Number two, we want to see if we can get you some results immediately within that session. Is there something that we can do to make you feel better? Now, this is where I think people will be like, oh, you probably crack people's backs and you adjust people. This is when you do your treatment and that type of therapy. And sometimes, although I have progressively kind of started to move away from that, because I may have a window of time between visits, maybe a week, maybe a few days, maybe a couple weeks. So I'm going to try the least invasive thing that I can. Is there something that I can help the patient do to improve their symptoms and decrease their pain and make them feel better, that they can actually do for themselves, that they can replicate on their own? So we're going to try stretching, we'll try movement, we'll try foam rolling, we'll try whatever we can that they can replicate. And if we get to a point where it's like I need to go in with my hands to give them that relief, I gravitate towards techniques where I can do it to them, and then I can teach them, hey, here's how you can replicate that. And we go over that to make sure. Or I provide in videos, or if they have a loved one out there, like a parent or a spouse who came with them, I can teach them how to help provide that. So we want to figure out what it's not, try and narrow it down to see what it is, see if we can get you relief, not all the way gone, but some relief. And then the third thing we want to accomplish in that first visit is to detail out what a plan would look like to get you what you want. Obviously this is an educated guess at that point, but what's the prognosis? How good can you get? How long is it going to take? What kind of work are you going to have to do? What kind of lifestyle changes are you going to have to make? And not that we have to make everything at once, but like give you as the patient the best overall picture I can at that point. Because you have to make some decisions. Do I want to enter a plan of care? Do I want to work with this specific provider? Do I trust this person? That is this something that I need to address now, or that I want to address now? Those are all the questions that people have. So that is a lot to get in one session. It's ambitious, but we do it to the best of our ability. And this is an ongoing process. When I work with people, I'm asking questions all the time. I'm getting feedback. We're constantly refining this process. But those are the goals. So how does that happen? Well, before you've come in, usually we've talked on the phone. I like to get on the phone with someone for 10 to 15 minutes before a visit, several days before, just to get an idea. So I don't go in blind. It gives me some time to get in the right headspace for what you're going through. I get to ask some pretty good questions. I get to hear part of the story, and I can do some research. If you've got other things going on, it gives me an opportunity to start thinking about how I would want to approach this. So you come in, we've had a discussion already, more than likely, and you've filled out a health history form, a pretty detailed health history form online, and I've read it. So I'm coming into this, I'm not coming in cold. I've already got kind of a plan. I learn a little bit about you. Like I said, we've probably already met, at least virtually, and then I don't talk. I just let you talk. I let you tell me, give me all of the details. Tell me the whole story. What's going on? I just want to hear from start to finish. Just talk. Just tell me everything. And then I listen to what you're saying. And my goal is not to judge or diagnose or do anything. I try not to be a doctor almost at that point, or a chiropractor. I'm just a sympathetic ear, an empathetic ear, really. So I want to try and understand this from your perspective, because even if you're coming in with something that I've had before, like you're coming in with low back pain, I've had low back pain, but we're going to experience that differently. So I am listening to your story. I'm actively participating, and I'm trying to understand this from your perspective to the best of my ability, because there's no other way that I can create a sustainable plan or program for you if I don't understand it from your perspective, or at least if I haven't tried. There's no way I can completely step into your shoes, but it's still worth the effort, and it helps me make customizable plans. So something I want to get out of this conversation is I want to know what you want. So you tell me the story, and it's like, okay, great. If I'm hearing you correctly, this is what happened, and this is what you're feeling. Cool. You can correct me if you want, but what do you want? Like, what's your end goal? If we hit a home run with this in 3 months, what does that look like? You see a vision of yourself that may not exist right now. What is that? And again, tell me everything. And when do you want it? What's your timeline look like? Is this something that's got to happen quickly? Are you willing to put some time into it? I need to understand that, because it may be a doable goal in 18 months and you want it in 6 months. So we've got to be on the same page if we're going to work together. Otherwise, we're both going to be frustrated. So what do you want? When do you want it? And then why do you want it? I talked about initially when we started this podcast, my why. And that carries me a long way, but what's your why? Like, why do you want this result? Because things are going to get hard. I'm going to simplify this process as much as I can, but making something simple does not make it easy. It's still going to be very challenging because, like I said, I challenge and guide. And there's a lot of good stuff on the other side of a hard challenge. And most people's goals are challenging. And most people, when they get down to it, they have a pretty good reason why. And when things get hard and you start to lose motivation, as your coach and your guide, I can snap you back into it. I can bring you right back. But remember why you are doing this. And we can get through those hard times if we understand the reason why. And again, this is the process of me trying to understand what you are going through. So when I understand what you want, and I understand your timeline, and I understand why you want it, you've basically outlined the destination. This is where you want to go. And I say, okay, great. We have to figure out where you are now in relation to that. So that's when I put my doctor hat back on. I go, okay. So based on the questions, I've narrowed some things down. I do a detailed physical exam, and I am either confirming or I'm further narrowing things down, and we test some stuff. So you've defined the end goal, the destination. I have helped you understand where you are right now in relation to that. So we have a starting point and we have an end point. Well, this is starting to get, it's not, again, not easy, but this is a little bit more simple now, right? We've got 2 points and we've got to get a path from one point to the other point. Okay, great. We need to discuss all the hurdles in the way. What are all the obstacles that we think we're going to hit? You've already told me a bunch. I'm going to probably bring up some other ones that maybe you're not thinking about. We need to look at those and go, okay, what, based on what you want, the timeline you want it in, and the reason why you want it, and where you are now, and all the obstacles that we both foresee, what is the best path? And we don't have to know the whole path. We really just have to know the first step. What is the best first step? And that's why if you may see 10 of my patients, all with the same diagnosis, all with the same complaint. Maybe they've all got mechanical low back pain and they're explaining it in the exact same way. But all of their programs and their plans look different. Well, they're different people. They're different demographics. They have different goals. They have different obstacles and they're different things in their lives. So every plan is going to look different. That's why I don't have any cookie cutter plans. I've gotten rid of all of that stuff. I have exercises and things that I favor over others, but we will use them selectively. So then we got to trying to start that path. So basically after that first session, we've done a lot. We've ideally already come up with a way that you can make yourself feel better. And you've got 1 to 3 things that you can do. And we are going to, on your own, and we're going to test this hypothesis. So you leave with a plan. And let's say we're going to test this for a week. We schedule your next appointment. You go off into life, and then I follow up that day with a message, and it's going to have things in writing. So I'll write some of my notes, my recommendations, and then I'll put the plan in there, and I'll put YouTube links, and that's what you're doing. So let's say I'm going to see you in a week. Somewhere between visits, I'm going to call you, and I'm going to ask you how things are going. I'm going to try and get that feedback. Because when you leave, I already kind of make up a relative plan for the next time I see you. And then I will refine that plan after I've talked to you. So you have direct access to me and I am thinking about you between visits. You show up for the next visit. We talk. I ask you how things went. You give me all the feedback and tell me how things are going. And then, as I said, I kind of have a plan of what I think we might do. I will change it on the fly if we need to, and we workshop. We spend the rest of that hour testing things. So usually I'm going to say, okay, show me what you've been doing. And then I just watch you do your exercises that you've been doing all week, because I may explain something, you may watch a video, and then the actual implementation of that exercise is different. So I want to see, what have you been doing? Because sometimes people go off and they're doing something different. They're not really doing the exercise the way we had discussed, or the way that might be the most beneficial to them. So, and then I can give some feedback and I can give some coaching, like, hey, let's refine this. And then they can give me feedback. Oh, well, it felt this way, or I didn't like this, or I intentionally changed it because of this. So then we can get on that same page. So then we'll go over new stuff and we'll workshop it. And then at the end, we'll come up with a plan, like, okay, this is what the next week's going to look like. I'm going to see you in 1 week, or I'm going to see you in 2 weeks, or I'm going to see you in 3 days, whatever it is. This is the time between visits. And this is what we're going to trying to accomplish between those 2 visits. You're going to go do that. I'll call you between. Let's figure this. Let's just go off and implement this plan, and then see how things go. And we just kind of go step by step like that until we get to the destination that you created. It's a pretty simple process. It is time consuming though. It's time consuming because we'll spend an hour together, which is more than what people are used to. But I think people like it and they value it. At least my patients value it. And it's more on your part, because between visits, I'm expecting you to do stuff, and I'm going to call you. You want this goal. There's some work that has to be put into it. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I lack the accountability. Well, that's what you have me for. You know what I mean? I mean, you have to hold yourself accountable to a certain extent, but I am not just going to be like, oh, shame on you, you're not doing your exercises. No, I'm going to call you. I'm going to text you. I'm going to get you on board with this plan. And if the plan doesn't work, it's okay. We will change it. I can make a great plan, and if you're not actually going to do the plan, it's a bad plan, right? So we've got to figure out a way to make it fit into your life so that you can get what you want. But again, this is where your reason why you want what you want plays a big role, and I can always go back to that. Okay, so we are making hypotheses. So if you remember from, I don't know, high school science class, a hypothesis it's an educated guess. We're using all of the information that we have available to make the best decision we can, and then we're going to go test it and see what happens. So when we go test something, you have basically 3 options. One of 3 things will happen. You will get better, which is the best one. That happens quite often, thankfully. Another possibility is there is no change. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that anything's wrong. Maybe you need more time. Maybe we need to alter the exercises. Maybe the exercises are good, the stretches are good, but the dosing's off. We either need to give it more time or make some tweaks. The third possibility is you get worse. That's pretty rare, but it does happen from time to time, because sometimes we don't get it right. That gives us a ton of information. If you get worse, I don't like to see that, but it's a lot of usable information. So we learn from that, and then we pivot. A lot of times we pivot hard. So it's like, oh, that made it worse. Interesting. Let's do the opposite. And then boom, better. So sometimes we have to take a step back so that we can take a big step forward. So I never look at, if people get worse, I never look at it as a failure. It's a learning experience. Now, you might look at it as a failure because you're the one in pain, not me. But I really try and prep people for that. And again, it's super rare that someone gets worse. But when you come back, I've got questions, and I'm going to ask you, I'm not going to just go down a list of questions, but this is what the discussion looks like. And I provide these questions when I send you your report of findings. So when I send you the message with, hey, here's the plan. This is what I expect. This is what we discussed. This is what we agreed upon that you were going to do between. Cool. And I'm going to ask you some questions. So the next time I see you, I'm going to want to know, since your last visit, did you get a chance to perform the agreed upon plan? Yes or no? And, did you meet the recommended pain levels? Did you meet the recommended movement standards? How often were you able to do the exercises? If we agreed on 3 times a day, was it 1 time a day, 3 times a day? How many days did you do them? Um, did did the plan have any effect on your symptoms or any of the activities that you value? So what's the overall response? In what ways are things better, and in what ways are things worse? Because things can get better and worse at the same time for different reasons. So how do you feel like right now, and how have you felt? And at your worst, how bad was that? Which parts of the plan were useful and why? Why did you find them useful? And which parts of the plan were not useful? Because like I said, it's an educated guess. There's inevitably going to be things that you don't find useful. So let's get rid of those. But why were they not useful? I will say a lot of times they're not useful because people don't do them. And the knee-jerk reaction from me, or a lot of my career, has been to be like, oh, you're non-compliant. But if we agree upon 3 exercises and you do 2 of them and 1 of them you don't do, and you're like, yeah, it wasn't useful, but I didn't do it. Well, why didn't you do it? And it might be like, I don't like it, or it's hard for me to find time to do that. And that information is invaluable, because it's like, okay, great. It's not the right exercise. It's not the right stretch. It's not the right thing. I mean, it could be, but it just doesn't fit with what you want or what you're able to do. So we make a change. There's no shame in that. So I need your feedback every time. And then the cycle just starts over. And we just keep doing this. We just go step by step. Think about the old saying, what's the best way to eat an elephant? It's just 1 bite at a time. So we just look at this chronic pain. We look at this mission accomplishment. What's 1 step that we can take? What's 1 bite of the elephant that we could stomach right now? And we just keep going step by step, bite by bite, until you get what you want. And it's that simple. So when people going back to it, when people are like, oh, you don't adjust everybody and you have longer visits, what does that look like? Well, it looks like that. Sometimes there's a lot more discussion because people have questions and they need information. Sometimes it's a lot more movement. I try and blend it with both because I think people need both, but some days you don't need as much movement or as much rehab. You just need questions answered. And other days we don't need to talk at all. We just need to move, and we need to challenge you so that I can get that coaching in, you can get that guidance, you can get that feedback, and you can ask those questions as you're moving through different things, and we can workshop as much as possible in the time that we have. And it works quite well. So this works well with people who have active goals. This works well with people who lack accountability but want to accomplish things, because we can build in that accountability piece without you having to come in constantly. And there's some reward with that, especially if you're someone who's like, oh, I never follow through with my exercises. I never follow through with my treatment plan. I'm going to try and figure out a way to make that happen. I'm going to need your help. But how rewarding is it going to feel after a few months when not only do you accomplish what you wanted, but you did it and you held yourself accountable and you did all of these things? And I think that's what a good coach and a good guide can help you do. Climbing Everest, probably pretty simple, but very hard. People have guides, they have coaches. Playing professional sports, pretty simple in conceptually, but very hard to do. And a big part of that is coaching and work ethic, having a really good coach, having the abilities and having the plan, and then sticking to that plan. So you have to be willing, able, and ready. And I think most people, by the time they contact me, they are willing. Everybody is able. It's my job. I think maybe when people say, oh, I'm not able to do that, I think it's mostly a lack of confidence, not actual ability. And I can help with that. So you have to be willing, able, and ready. And I think the people who don't do well with my treatment style, they're just not ready. It's not, this would work for them, but they're not ready for it. And there's a lot of reasons why someone might not be ready. And I don't judge, but I'm just here when you are ready. So if this isn't the right time, and we talk on the phone, and I'm not able to put time into it like what you're expecting as a coach or as a healthcare provider. It's like, okay, that's when you are ready, we will be here, and you can come get that. So I hope this is helpful. I hope this is useful if you are thinking about, getting some help from Build Beyond Health, or if you were thinking about working with me. Depending on when you're listening with this, if you're thinking about working with someone who works for my company, so hopefully we'll have employees at some point. Maybe we do right now when you're listening to this. I don't know, who's out there or how many times this episode's actually going to be viewed or heard. But that's what we're here for. We're here to challenge and guide you to help you reach your full potential, and that's what a plan of care, big picture, would look like. All right. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned. I got some good episodes coming up, some really good guests I'm pretty excited about over the next few weeks. So I'll talk to you guys later.